Look, I know I gush about the Elites. It is my favorite toy line. I love wrestling. I love the Mattel figures. To me, it's the best feeling action figure in the world is a good Mattel Elite. But how many toy lines do you know of that got to Series 100? Like, granted, Stunning Steve here is the first one, and so far only one I've been able to find. But 100 series of one toy line, still going strong, still giving us characters that we want and new attires, and in this line, all new belts that we've not had any of before. So, I'm pretty excited. This is going to be a bit of an extra video, I'm sorry. From Mattel's WWE Elite toy line, this is the Series 100 Stunning Steve Austin. And I know I don't normally show the box. That's the thing I kind of stick away from because I try to do the shorter reviews. We've been doing some longer reviews lately, but each of those, they had a reason for being long. This one is out of pure gushing. I love this box. I really do. I love, look how 90s that background is. And keep in mind, even though the boxes are the same, the backgrounds of each one is going to be different for each figure in this wave. And Mattel's already said they're not going to be reusing this box design again. They're not going to be reusing the backgrounds again. This is just a purely celebrational type of release. I especially love this side profile here. Typically they go for something a little bit more realistic, but for this, to kind of harken to the Target Legends line, they're doing instead the paintings with the background being continued. Same thing in the back, and I'll just read this out loud. Every legend has a beginning. For Stunning Steve Austin, that was in WCW. He took on some of the greatest to ever lace up a pair of boots. Before long, he shaved his blonde hair, his attitude became stone cold, and he changed the business forever. Elite 100 celebrates the roots of Steve Austin's career, complete with his first title, the WCW Television Championship. And also, this art was done by a Mr. Jonathan Bartlett, and I gotta say, I like that a lot. If they ever release an art book or a print, I might get that. Especially like I said, I don't own any of the rest, but I've seen Andre's, and I don't know if Jonathan Bartlett's the one who did Andre's, but it's a very pretty box as well. And then just this on the side as well. So, I'm sorry. It's a weird moment where this toy line I love so much, it's a big achievement. It's one of the only toy lines I can think of that made it to Series 100 with no gaps, no stops, no breaks, no turnover to a different company. It just kept going. And once again, a thing that I love about this series to kind of commemorate it is they want to take 6 people who they felt defined the WWE. And, you got Andre, Ray, Rock, Becky, John, and Steve. Yeah, that's a good lineup of 6. I could see people make an argument, oh, well, you should have had Hogan in there, you should have had Warrior, you should have had Macho. No, I think that's a really good, strong lineup of 6. You definitely need Stone Cold and Rock, and I'm glad that they went with Stunning Steve Austin instead of Stone Cold. But, they went for a more traditional Rock. For the, early 2000s, which, let's be honest, a lot of the collectors who were buying these grew up in the early 2000s. You got Ray and John Cena. Makes complete sense. For the modern fans, modern collectors, you have Becky, and seeing as how Becky Lynch is a massive deal for women's wrestling, and was the face of the company in one of its strongest periods creatively in recent memory, before Triple H took back over, yeah, that all makes sense to me. And in terms of the Golden Age representative, yes, I could see you making an argument, well, you should have had Rick, you should have had Hogan, you should have had Macho. I think having Andre is so much more meaningful, because you gotta think, Andre is the epitome of the transition from the territories to WWE. He is the epitome of the old ways of wrestling transforming forever. And I think that is a perfect representation. If you can only have one Golden Age wrestler, absolutely Andre deserves that spot. Taking Steve Austin out of the box and just, wow. The figure feels great. I know I say this all the time for the Mattel reviews, but legitimately, especially when it comes to just domestic, buying this on a Target or Walmart store shelf, this is the best feeling action figure to me. All the joints always come out feeling really well. The plastic material is always very well chosen. The paint always turns out pretty well for me. And just take a look at this head sculpt. Let me change my lighting here to get this better. This is such a perfect head sculpt for Stunning Steve Austin. And I know a lot of people might not be as familiar with Stunning as opposed to Stone Cold Steve Austin. But yeah, before he went to WWE, before he lost the hair, before he became the epitome of 90s wrestling and 90s grunge in wrestling, he was just stunning. He was essentially trying to emulate Ric Flair at every turn, from his robe, to his hair, to his goofy print trunks. And there's something heartwarming about this guy who was such a big fan of Ric Flair going on, and he transforms the business just like Ric Flair did, but in a very different way. He didn't do it by becoming the next Ric Flair, he did it by being the first Steve Austin. Getting him out of the robe, we can see that there's been no staining on the figure. That was an issue for a little bit with the Mattel figures, but it seems like thankfully we've moved away from it. At the very least, we're not pulling them out of the box and them already being stained by their robes. But even still, I really love this attire. And yes, this is something that Stone Cold, or I keep doing that Stunning Steve actually wore. He was a huge fan of wearing just these most 90s Rugrats as epitomized by a pair of wrestling trunks types of outfits. And a lot of WCW wrestlers did. A lot of WWE wrestlers did. Really, the only people who weren't dressing like this were the people who had pre-existing gimmicks and could kind of talk their way out of it. Everyone wanted to go for that 90s Nickelodeon slime, cartoony kind of look. And it wasn't really until you get to like 95 and the NWO comes in where we got away from that type of thing. In terms of accessories, Stunning Steve Austin of course comes with the robe. He comes with those open splayed hands. He comes with a pair of gripping hands. But then he comes with this. This is, have it upside down. This is the Television Wrestling Championship belt. Can I get a good light on it? It's a very reflective belt, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good look at it. There we go, somewhat. And this belt, it was basically the WCW version of the Intercontinental Championship. Basically, if you won this belt, you would have to hold it for X number of weeks, and each week that you retained it on TV, which means you didn't lose it in a match, you would get paid a bonus. And if you kept it for 10 weeks, I believe, you got a massive bonus, or you could trade that in for a shot at one of the other titles, be it the US Championship or the World Belt. So the TV belt is a really cool idea. A lot of territories used it. It was used in Memphis. It was used in Smoky Mountain. Of course, WCW used it. And in fact, some of the best wrestlers of all time had this belt. Arn Anderson wore this belt. Steve Austin wore this belt. Lance Storm had this belt, I'm pretty sure, for a little bit. And this is the first time we've had this in Mattel. This might be the first time we've had a toy of it, period. And I hope we reuse it. Because if we don't, I'm going to end up buying a lot more of those just to get more of these belts. Because I want one on Arn Anderson, absolutely. Who else would I want this on? I think it would look cool on Lex Luger, because I think he had it for a little bit. That'd be nice. Basically, a lot of WCW wrestlers. I want a lot of old school WCW wrestlers to have this belt, because to me, it's more emblematic of the WCW I like than even the World Championship was. Between the sheer rareness of getting any Steve Austin that isn't a Stone Cold, the accessories, the packaging, the moment in time this is for wrestling toy collecting, there's a lot of factors and a lot of reasons why I really enjoy this figure. Not the least of which being just the sheer newness of it. The sense of this is cutting edge, this is it, this is the moment. But I love this figure. I honestly do. And it's definitely in strong running for my top wrestling figure of the year. The only figure I have that I can think of that rivals it is that Wolfpack Hogan I got. I cannot wait to see how the rest of this wave turns out.